Hi, many thanks for joining me. Today, let's consider whether we're seeing the beginning of the end for the Iranian regime. Rumbles of discontent erupting into public protests are nothing new in Iran. They predate the Islamic Revolution of 1979, which swept the Shah from the throne and Ayatollah Khomeini into power. Today, among the slogans being chanted in the mass demonstrations bursting out all over Iran and threatening the very stability of the regime are, quote, Reza Shah, God bless your soul, unquote. In short, the regime of the Ayatollahs has long outlived its honeymoon period. During 2017, it was clear that President Syed Hassan Rouhani had been unable to keep most of his promises to the Iranian electorate, namely to create the new jobs, to implement economic reforms, and to improve human rights. As a result, at the end of the year, unrest broke out across the country. And by January 2018, Iran was in turmoil. Rallies and street protests were erupting throughout the nation. At first, they centered on the worsening economic situation and the ever-rising food and commodity prices. This soon morphed into opposition to the regime in general and the supreme leader in particular. A special dissent was voiced against the foreign adventures indulged in by the regime, including direct involvement in the Syrian civil conflict and costly military and logistical support for Hezbollah in Syria and for the Houthis in Yemen and the Hamas in Gaza. The vast sums expended in these foreign adventures were seen as being at the direct expense of the Iranian population. Now, early in February 2018, Iran tested a ballistic missile, claiming that to do so was not in contravention of its nuclear deal, but Washington saw things a different way. The United States imposed sanctions on more than 24 individuals and companies involved in procuring ballistic missile technology for the country. So even before Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal, which he did in May 2018, Iranians' confidence in their government had been very largely eroded. Now, the effect of the US withdrawal and the announcement of further United States sanctions set to hit in August has been devastating. The Iranian rial is sinking fast against the dollar. It was some 43,000 rials could buy a dollar at the end of 2017. Now the dollar is worth 90,000 rials. The effect on normal household budgets is catastrophic. The government has prohibited the import of over 1,400 items, and Iranians are discouraged from buying dollars and traveling abroad. Well, inevitably, the panic generated by this advice has pushed civilians into purchasing more dollars, more gold, and for anyone who could afford it, real estate, causing housing prices to peak. On Monday, June the 25th, Tehran's Grand Bazaar was shut down as merchants joined street protests and thousands defied the riot police trying to quell the rebellion. Other big cities soon joined Tehran. Protesters carried signs like, quote, leave Syria alone, think of us, unquote. Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, the Houthis and Hamas, all proxies used by the regime, were attacked by the slogan boards. Worse, from the regime's point of view, were the prominently displayed slogans, quote, death to the dictator, unquote. Now, there's an old English saying, meaning that patience is the best way to achieve your object. Softly, softly, catchy monkey. If eventual regime change is the optimum objective of the West, the process does indeed require patience. Before the end of 2010, the first spark of what was to flare up into the Arab Spring had appeared in Tunisia. Now, although Iran is not an Arab country, this revolutionary fervor found an echo in the Iranian population, and protests about the result of the 2009 presidential election, long considered to have been rigged, erupted. February the 14th, 2011 saw the start of a year-long period of continuous popular revolt. The election as president in June 2013 of the self-styled moderate Syed Hassan Rouhani was, it goes without saying, blessed by the supreme leader, as was the deliberate change of tactics. Now all was to be charm and sweet reason. Immediately after his election, Rouhani agreed to start substantive talks with world leaders about Iran's nuclear intentions. World leaders swallowed the bait. Bowled over by the change in tactics, the UN negotiating team struck a deal which lifted crippling sanctions on Iran and enabled it to begin trading with the West. In exchange, Iran agreed to restrict its nuclear capabilities for some 15 years, after which it would be free to manufacture nuclear weapons if it wished. Not even Iran's supreme leader could have foreseen the emergence of a Donald Trump. A rejection by the US administration of the deal and a refusal to accept an Iranian missile development process, and the reimposition of heavy sanctions. This has thrown Iran into turmoil, with the public openly protesting against the regime's burdensome domestic and costly foreign policies. Now, is this the beginning of the end for the Islamic revolutionary regime? Well, thank you for listening, and do please join me again next time. Goodbye.